Hi guys, welcome to Chapter 2, Collections. Okay, a collection is just a way to group objects together. And in Swift, we have two primary collection types, and they are an array and a dictionary. So let's see what they both look like in Terminal. Alright, I'm running it in a virtual machine on my Windows PC, so it might be a little slow and kind of weird. And also, like when I go between different the slides and the stuff, sometimes I gotta pause the video and it's a pain in the butt because I have to hit the right click or the right control button. Then I gotta click out on my desktop, and then I gotta hit pause. It's a long story, but anyway. So if you see some uncomfortable pauses, just know that it's just me and it's just me going between different screens. All right. So first, when I bring up Terminal, it looks like this. Now Bash, that's the built-in shell script console for OS 10. So we don't want to do it in Bash. Obviously, we want to run Swift. So you need to type in XC. Whoop. So XC, and then run. So we want to run Xcode. So Xcode run space and then Swift, SWIFT. And then you should get numbered lines. And if you get numbered lines, everything's good. Boom. So now I'm in Swift and it's all good. So the first thing we're going to talk about is an array. And remember, an array is a collection of values that are the same type. So let's make an array. So we're going to make it a constant. So we're going to start with let. And we're going to call this jar. And in our jar is going to be our array elements. Ugh. And we're going to have candy. So we're going to do mints, comma, and then we're going to do some gum. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a long day. And then we're going to do some sprees. And then bracket. So now we've got our array. And our array is called jar. It's a constant because we use the word let to begin with. And I have three elements in my array: mints, gum, and sprees. Make sure you can describe what the different parts of a line of code are, because you're going to see that on the quizzes and the exams. Like I may show you this line of code and say, you know, what would I call mints, gum, and spree? And those would be elements of the array. Okay, next, notice the position of those elements. You know, an array always fills the first location as 0. So if you've got 4 elements in the array, it fills 0, 1, 2, and 3. So make sure you're aware of that. All right, let's say I want to add something to my array. All I have to do is do jar and then dot append, and then crap, what do you call that? Parentheses. All these different keys are starting to freak me out trying to name them all. And then let's say I want to add candy canes. Now, I got an error. How come I got that error? Look at that error message and tell me why I got the error. If you said it's because I created jar, I created my array as a constant, which means it cannot change. And then I tried to change it, so that's not going to work. I can't append to a constant. So make sure you're aware, if you start your arrays and your dictionaries with let, you will not be able to change those. Now, there's a simple way to fix that. I can either just make a new array and add mints, gum, and sprees, and candy cane, or I can make an array of an array. So let's say I do var, and then I'm going to do candy jar equals jar. And does that work? Yeah. So now candy jar has the jar elements, but candy jar is a variable that can change. So now I can do candy jar dot append, and the, I need to do parentheses, and candy canes. And now if I want to see what's in my array, I just type in the name of the array, candy jar. And we see that candy cane was added at the 4th position, or it's element number, at this point I'm a little confused. Do I call it element number 3? Because it's actually the 4th element. So maybe it's in position 3, and it's element number 4. How about let's call it that. All right, so that's one way to add things to your array. I can use the append and the candy canes. There are other ways to add to the array. Let's do candy jar, and then you can do plus equals, and then you have to do a space. If you don't do a space, you'll get an error. And then bracket, and I'm going to add a Charms Blow Pop. And then if I type in candy jar to look at my array, I see that Blow Pop was added. So the plus minus will work as well. So it's typically faster to do the plus minus than to type in the append, but again, it's your choice. Either way will work. All right, let's say I need to change a value. Let's say, hey, I'm all out of sprees. And instead I want to add lollipops or Mike and Ike's or jelly beans. Let's add some jelly beans. So I want to go candy jar, and then if I type in the element number, so in this case I'm saying I'm all out of gum, so I want to go to element number 1, and then equals, and then what did I say, jelly beans? Yeah. Now if I type in candy jar, you see that gum is gone, but jelly beans is added. Now, be careful with that because remember, when we type in that number here, it's the actual element number, 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's not the order of it's not like the fifth value, that kind of stuff. And that's where it gets confusing. All right, now, if you want to remove a value, we just say remove at index. So if I do candy jar dot remove at index, and then type in the number in parentheses, duh. So let's say I want to get rid of blow pops. I'm all out of blow pops. Boom. So now blow pops is gone. So if I type in candy jar and spell it correctly next time, you'll see the blow pops are gone. So you can see playing with arrays is pretty easy. And if I'm going too fast at this, make sure you pause the video, make sure you take notes about the different code. Because if you're like me and you just kind of you zip through everything, oh yeah, it all makes sense, next week it won't make sense anymore because you didn't really learn it, you kind of half learned it. You kind of put it in the short-term memory and then you kind of left. It's kind of like when you meet somebody and you shake their hand and like, hey, I'm Dave, and hey Dave, how you doing? And then 3 seconds later you're like, crap, what was that guy's name again? So make sure you take notes on these commands. How do I manipulate array? How do I add something? How do I remove something? How do I change a value that's in the array? That kind of stuff. All right, let's say you want to add a new value, but you want to insert it into a certain position in the array. Well, you guessed it, candy jar dot insert, parentheses, and then whatever you're going to insert, we're going to insert some Mike and Ike's. And then we're going to insert that at index, and we want to put it in position 2. So we want to insert Mike and Ike's at position 2. Enter. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I see. I did candy to the candy jar. Why don't you guys tell me about this stuff? That's why I like face-to-face classes, because then you guys are right there, and you'll be like, J-Mac, you're doing something stupid. Boom. Now if I type in candy jar, we'll see that Mike and Ike's got in at position 2. So again, that number thing that still makes me feel weird about it. All right, and what's neat about arrays are elements, or I'm sorry, I guess we would call it elements or variables, just like other variables. So you can add two together and create other ones. So let's say I create another one. So I do another candy jar equals, and we'll do tarts and taffy. Need some taffy. I know, I'm freaking out here. So now I have two different arrays. Well, I can do a combined array, and I can say, hey, add the candy jar plus the other one. another candy jar. Oh, what did I forget? Why do you guys let me do stupid stuff? Same thing, everything was good. We just didn't give it the new array, the combined array. We didn't give it a type. So I want to do var. So var combined candy jar equals candy jar plus another candy jar. So we're going to make a third array out of the first two arrays. And now you can see combined candy jar is now a real big array. Alright, so that kind of wraps up the arrays. The arrays, again, very easy to manipulate. You know, it's a collection of all the stuff that's the same type. And we talked about how to add new elements after you create it. We talked about how to remove elements, how to put elements at specific points, how to remove elements at specific points, and how to combine them. So now we're going to move on to dictionaries. Now I'm going to use the same dictionary they use in the book. Dictionaries are made up of each element has two entities. So there's like a key and then there's a value. So let me show you the one. So var, now the Scoville scale is the scale of hotness, like when you eat hot foods. So each food item is listed on this hotness scale. Some are hotter than others. Bracket. I can't even pronounce half these words. Poblano. So you have a key, and then each key gets a colon, and then a value. Now, if you're doing 1,000, you have to do it that way. So that's one element in the dictionary. Poblano equals 1,000. And then we'll do Serrano equals 700. And then we'll do red Amazon. Alright, who noticed that I didn't do that right there? Red Amazon sounds like the hottest to me. Ooh, holy crap balls. It is 75 underscore 1,000. And then we're going to do red Savina habanero. And then that, ooh, that one's crazy hot. So, the type, and then the dictionary name, and then you got to put each item in there. So remember, each item has a key and a value. So the key is Serrano, and then the value is 700. Now, notice it did not put these in order, the order that I typed them in. When you create a dictionary, it actually moves the pieces around in a way that helps it to either store it faster so that you can retrieve it faster. And I don't know exactly the physics or the mechanics behind that, but I know whatever you type in, it actually manipulates them so that you can retrieve that stuff faster. So what's neat about Swift is, you know, I don't have to declare all the variable types. Swift kind of picks those up as we go. Now, if you want to see, again, what's in there, we just got to type in the name of the dictionary, Scoville. I'm sorry, scale. Oh, what did I do wrong? You know, it's always something with me. All right, once again, who let me misspell that? There's an E there. Okay. It's going to be one of those days. So if you just type in the name of the dictionary, all the different items will pop up for you. Now, here's something from your book. Let's say I type in... really? That would help if I typed that in the right block. Scoville scale. Alright, Scoville scale. And then I just want to see what Serrano. Wow, it's going to be one of those days. Now notice it shows me the 700, which is what Serrano was, with the value. But also it says integer and then question mark. Remember, the question mark, where it says integer question mark, that question mark says this is an optional value and it can be nil. So each item inside the dictionary can have a nil or, you know, zero value. So make sure that anytime you see the question mark when it comes up like that, that's what that means. So keep in mind the return value, so the value of each key, is optional. You don't have to actually have to have a value. So what happens when I try to type in something that's not there? So let's do Scoville, and instead of that, let's type in Tabasco. If I spell that right. Alright, if that's not right, somebody laugh at me. So notice that now I'm seeing the nil. So remember, the question mark there, int question mark, says each element does not have to have a value. And for Tabasco, there is no value because Tabasco is not even in there. So that's why that's kind of kicking off like that. Alright, now let's add a value for Tabasco. So I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to do equals 50,000. So now if I type in Scoville Scale, we'll see Tabasco is now in there with a value of 50,000. And then notice it's not at the front or the back, it's right there in the middle. And again, I don't know the mechanics behind why it stores things in different order. I just know the process it is for to allow for faster retrieval of the data. Alright, so in the dictionary, let's say I want to change the value. Let's say, remember, Serrano is at 700. Let's say I want to bump that up to 7,000. All I have to do is type in Scoville Scale, and then the name of the key, in this case, Serrano, and then I just do equals 7_1,000. And if I check it out, Serrano is now 7,000. So that's what I like about Swift. It's pretty intuitive, and most of the commands are pretty easy and they kind of make sense. Alright, let's say that you think Tabasco sucks and you want it out of your stuff. Let's take her out. So let me go over here. And I'm going to give it a value of nil and change that to Tabasco. And now if I type in Scoville, you see Tabasco's gone. So if I were to search for Tabasco now, take that out of there, hey, where's it at? It's going to tell me there it's nil, it's not in there. So if that's all you have to do, if you remove the value, it'll pull that item out of there for you. Alright, so that kind of wraps up the dictionary thing. We showed you how to create one, how to add different values, how to remove values, how to change the values. Now let's talk about arrays and dictionaries themselves. Arrays and dictionaries are both types, just like integers and strings. And an array can reference a dictionary or can reference another array, and a dictionary can reference an array or another dictionary. And then again, I already showed you can have an array of arrays, that kind of stuff. So theoretically, I could do var iOS class equals Bob and Susie, and then I could create another array, var my C++ class, Joe and Bobby Sue, and then I could create another array, a third array, and do var Unity class, and that's going to be Frank and Billy. And then I can create a fourth array, JMac classes, and I could add iOS class, C++ class, Unity class, so then JMac classes would have a whole bunch of stuff into it. But what's neat is the way it actually puts that stuff together, and let me show you. Alright, so over here I created a couple extra arrays. So I did var iOS class, and I created an array just with Bobby and Susie, and then I typed in var with a capital V, which gave me an error, and then I typed it correctly, so var C++ class is Joe and Bobby Sue, and var Unity class is Frank and Billy. So I created 3 different arrays, and each array has 2 items in it. So now, assuming I'm not going to make any more changes to the students in my class, I'm going to make this a constant. And then I can do JMac classes equals, and then iOS class space, or I'm sorry, comma, and then C class, comma, and enter. Now, here's where it gets kind of weird. Each array gets a different position, and then each element in the array gets a position based off that position. So Bob would actually be position 0, 0, and Susie would be position 0, 1. And then Joe would be position 1, 0, and then Bobby Sue would be position 1, 1. So it's kind of like a multi-dimensional array, which is kind of really cool as far as Swift goes. So for a small extra credit assignment, we'll say 5 to 10 points on your next quiz, depending on how many people turn it in. If one guy turns it in and actually solves it, then I'll give you 10 points. If half the class sends it in, you probably all get 5 points. But just on a Word document or something, and I'll actually create an extra credit Dropbox where you can just type in whatever you want. Tell me, what line of code would I use to reference an individual value inside one of these arrays of arrays? So how would I reference Joe here? Joe is at position 1, 0. How would I reference just that one element in the array? All right, and this works the same with dictionaries too. You can have a dictionary of a dictionary. You can have multiple dictionaries in a dictionary. Again, because they're all just elements, you can kind of mix and match them just like you would integers and strings and a bunch of other stuff. All right, let's say I wanted to make an empty array. I don't know what's going to go into it yet. I just want to make the array. I can do var my empty array colon array. Now here where you're going to put the type in, this has to be capitalized. So integer equals, and then I can do double brackets or brackets and hit enter. So now I've created an empty array with no values. Just make sure that you do a capital on that type, because if you do lowercase, you get the idea. So if I wanted to fill that later on, I could just type in my empty array plus equals, and I can do a bracket, let's say 33, 44, 55. Boom. And so Alright, who noticed I did not capitalize that E over there? Ah, I did it again. I need to quit smoking crack. Boom. So, pretty easy. Alright, it works the exact same way with dictionaries. So I can do var my empty dictionary equals, and I'm creating a dictionary, and they're going to be of type string, and remember it has a value, or I'm sorry, a key and a value. So the key is going to be a string, the value is going to be a double, and then followed up with that. So now I have an empty dictionary, and if I want to add to it, my empty dictionary equals, and then my key, colon, and let's say 1.125, bracket. Ta-da! So, pretty self-explanatory. Alright, that's the easy part. Creating arrays and creating dictionaries, making them empty, making them full, adding elements, taking elements away, putting elements in new positions. That stuff is pretty easy and intuitive in Swift. But now we're going to do what's called iteration. And what iteration is, we want to go through and do something to the values in the collection. So now at this point it gets freaky. So I'm going to jump back to the last array I made, which was combined candy jar. And I'm going to step through that and do something unique to each of the elements. All right, let's see if I can funk this up. So I'm going to do 4. Come on, baby, get in there. I'm going to do 4 candy in combined candy jar, curly brace, and then I want to print line, and I want it to print I enjoy Oh my gosh, eating. If any of you guys have Steve Morosco for your professor, don't tell him how bad I type. He already knows. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say, hey, for each element, in this case it was candy, in combined candy jar. So when I say for candy, I've now given the nickname candy to all the elements in the array. So each element will now be classified as candy. So each element in combined new, for that one I want you to print I enjoy eating and then pop each item in there. So if I hit this, and hopefully everything works out correctly. Oh, what did I do? I think it didn't like me where I put the break in the line. So now I typed it all in one line. And it's still not giving me any love. Ooh, apparently I lost my array because now when I do combined candy jar, nothing sprints out. Let me recreate that array real quick. Sorry about that. I had to kill my terminal and reopen it. I don't know if it's because I'm running on a virtual machine. Remember, the Mac OS 10 and the Mac OSs, they're not designed to run in these virtual machines on Windows platforms. It takes a lot to get this thing to run, just as steady as it is. All right, so now I recreated the array. I've got my combined array. Now I want to do some iteration. I want to add the I enjoy eating and then have it place the name for each thing. So let me retype that line of code. All right, Lord willing, this will work this time. So for candy, so now I'm saying, hey, give each element in the array the nickname candy in combined candy jar. Print I enjoy eating and then place the name and go all the way through. So we typically use the word for to step through an array. So let me run this sucker. And there you go. So I enjoy eating minutes. So it all ran. So just remember, if we're trying to go through an array and do something to the values, we use the code of the word for to go all the way to go through the array. So let me show you one. All right. So in this one, I'm going to do for, and then index candy, and then in. Hope I spell this right. Enumerate. Alright, is that right? Yeah, okay. So in enumerate, we want to do combine candy jar, and then we want a curly brace, and then we want to print line. Oh, one of those days. So print line, that, and then candy slash candy for the actual element is in position, and now we want to put index of the array, and then I want to close it off with another of that. So what we're doing is we're going to say for, and then we're going to take the index number of each element. So we're going to call, hey, the position is going to be index, and then the elements are going to be called candy. So then we want to enumerate of the array, and we want to print candy is in position blah of the array. So candy mince is in position 5 of the array, that kind of stuff. So let me hit this, and oh, it didn't work. What's going on? Why me? All right, at this point, it's just my virtual machine. If you type in that line yours, hopefully it'll work if you do it on a real Mac. Because if you see, if I go to line 7 and hit up arrow, it just kills line 7, kills line 6. So it's not creating new lines. At this point, it's not accepting code. But you get the idea. So if that would have worked, it would have said, candy mince is in position 0 of the array. And then it would have said candy jelly beans is in position 1 of the array. And then candy sprees is in position 2 of the array. So anytime we're going to walk through an array and manipulate the elements, we use for, and it works the exact same way with the dictionaries. The dictionary, we just do for and then parentheses. Well, actually, it's on the slide. It's on slide 29. So for key value in Scoville Scale, print / key has the following value, and it would print all that stuff out for you. So you get the idea. All right, so if you have any questions, make sure you email me this week. Remember, Monday through Fridays are always the best time to email me. Please, please, please don't wait until the weekend to do your labs, because if you do, I might not be available for you. All right, all these commands that I typed in are on the slides, and if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.